Welcome to EPG Pathshala. In the last module, I have gone through how you can use select statement to work with table. We know how to insert record into table, then we retrieve data using select statement, select column list from table name, and optionally we can use where clause. And with where clause we use how to use keywords like in, between, then regular expression and wildcard characters, and we also know how to use order by and limit clause. Now, in SQL we are continuing with this one. In today's module, I am going to take session on how to use column alias, use of update and delete statement, how to you define constraint on table level and column level, which is very essential for any database. Then if there are more than one table, then how you can write query using join. Join are two types, inner join and outer join, and finally we are use how we can use union operator to work with joining two tables. So, let us start from column alias. So, when you write query, by default result set display the same column name which is given in base table. Like say for example, in our customer table, if column name is CID, so when you write query the result set will display CID as it is, but if you want to display the column heading CID instead of some another name like customer ID, which is more meaningful. So, at that time you can use column alias, and it is used to display different column name from base table. To specify column alias for column name, as keyword is used. Of course, as keyword is optional, but it is recommended to use to increase readability, and if alias is not specified, then column which has calculated expression value display as it is. And to use space or special character in an alias, alias is enclosed between single quote or double quotes. Let us take example for this one. Say for example, this is our MySQL, and let me open our account database, and inside this is customer table, and these all are records. Now, let me write query. Say for example, I write here select CID comma CNAME from customer. Of course, you can apply where also, but for simplicity here I write only this query. So, here I write select CID CNAME from customer and click on go button. So, it will display all this record, and here column heading is CID and CNAME. Now, if I write, let me write select CID as, let me write customer ID. I can use single quote or double quote. I use single quote customer ID comma CNAME from customer and click on go button. So, if you look at here, now it will display as a customer ID, and you can write it without your comma. Say for example, I just copy it. You can write select CID as customer ID comma CNAME from customer. And click on go button. So, again it will display customer ID and CNAME, but if I wish to provide space in that name, so I have to write customer space ID in single quote comma CNAME from customer. Click on go button. Let me just copy this code. So, it will display here customer space ID, not only one column, you can apply as many columns, column alias as you like. Say for example, here I can write CNAME as customer name. So, here it will display CID as customer ID, and this one is a customer name. So, this is just column heading. As I said that if there is any calculative expression like this one, select 1000 multiply 1.1 plus, and you give column alias as a 10% more. So, I just write SQL syntax here and click on go button. So, look at here, it will show 10% more of 1000 is 1100, and if you not write as clause, though it will work, but at that time it will display the column heading as it is. Say for example, if I run it, so it will display this value. So, this is the column aliasing, you can use it. You can use current date function to return the current date, and the parentheses are optional for it, but it is used as it is function has a always with parenthesis. So, say for example, if I copy paste it to display the current date, you can check it when I write in SQL, select current date as current date and click on go button. So, it will display column heading as current date and display today's current date whatsoever is it. Then you can use date format function to format display in specific format. Date underscore format function use a percentage symbol as a prefix for format code. For example, you can use percentage as to represent month in numeric format. Say for example, if I type select current date as current date comma date underscore format, and then you take date and its format. This is the syntax for date format, and if I code this code, I type this code, then it will display the date in current date in by default format and the format in which I want to display it. So, this is the then another is a concat function, which is used to concat two or more string. The for example, you can write here I would like to concat two things, customer ID and customer name. So, I write select CID comma CNAME concat CID CNAME as column alias, I write concat student ID and name from customer table. So, I can concat it. Let me just demonstrate it. So, it show that your where is a problem, you have error in syntax. So, I have to write select CID CNAME as concat. Yes, this is I copy from PPT. So, this double quote symbol is different, that is why it shows error. Now, if I click on go button, so it will show that concat student ID and name. So, this is you can apply concating with this one. Now, sometime in query you may require to eliminate duplicate record. So, at that time distinct keyword is used, you can use distinct keyword. So, it will display only the distinct record, not repeated value, and it should be right after select statement immediately, and within your table generally only one column has a distinct keyword, because all other are combined with that. So, your result set is distinct value. For example, if I write select distinct city from customer, let me show you. First I write without distinct. So, I write select star from customer or select city from customer. So, it will show all the city whether it is repeated or not. Column name is C city for customer city. So, I write select C city from customer. So, look at here, it will be Ahmedabad are repeated, Rajkot are repeated. So, it will show, but if I type select distinct C city from customer. So, now it will display only unique values, only once Ahmedabad, Rajkot, Surat as well as null value here also. So, this is use of distinct. Of course, you can use distinct with another value also. Say for example, if you look at this code, I can write select distinct, just show you the code. I can code select distinct C city, C name and CID from customer. So, it will display only the first record, because here customer city and name are combined. So, though here Ahmedabad is repeated, but name and ID are again different. So, it will show all this record. So, this is the use of distinct keyword. To update a record, update statement is used, and the general syntax is update table name set column name is equal to, you can provide any value or expression. If you want to update multiple columns at a time, you can optional use comma and then again write column name equal to expression or value, and option you provide where clause. Where provide to update only that particular value, otherwise the whole table data will be updated. In the where clause you can specify condition that must be met how a row is updated. In case where clause is not used, as I say, it will be update all the records. Say for example, just look at here, we have here let me browse my customer table, and in that customer table I have customer city for customer ID 2 is null. So, I can write to change its city value update my table is customer, table name is customer, set field ID is customer city is equal to, let me write in, as it is character value, I will type it in either single quote or double quote, and then I write where CID means customer ID is equal to 2. So, that will be change the value for customer ID 2. Just again I show you, if you browse, so customer city is null. Now, if I write the code for this one, so one row affected, and if you browse it, you can check it here, it will be changed to Ahmedabad. If I not write where, then all the customer city will be replaced as Ahmedabad. So, when you use, you should make sure that it will be applied to only that particular record. Same way, to delete record from the database, delete statement is used. Again with delete you can also use where clause to delete a particular record. The syntax to delete a record is delete from table, and then you can provide where and search criteria. So, if that criteria is met, that record will be deleted. Say for example, in our customer table I would like to delete the records where customer email is null. So, I can write, look at here, there are 4 records 2, 3, 6, 10 as a customer email value is null. So, I can write select sorry, I have to write delete from customer where customer email is null, because with null we always use is null value. So, if I run it, it will ask, do you really want to delete from customer? I just zoom it, so you can view the code very clearly. I have write this one and click on go button, it will ask, do you delete? I say OK. So, 4 rows are deleted, and now if you look at browse and we can check it. So, we have now only 3 records available. If you do not provide where condition, then the all records of this one will be deleted. So, make sure that when you use delete statement, which record you would like to delete. Now, let us move to the constraint. So, we know that data for any database is very important, and data must be consistent within the database. To do that, when the data entry is happening, there should be the data consistency is maintained, so that any inconsistent data cannot be entered in database. So, to maintain consistency of database, constraint is used. Constraint are used to enforce integrity of the data, and to maintain integrity of the data, you can defining rules about the values that can be stored in the columns of the table, and this is the main purpose of constraint. So, constraint is used to define such rules or restriction. So, only that data can be entered in a with your database table. Constraint define either column level or table level, and there are 4 constraints available in MySQL. These are primary key, foreign key, unique and not null constraint. As we know that primary key is used to uniquely identify a record in a table, and if primary key consists of more than one attribute means column, then it is known as a composite primary key. In short, we can say a table have a primary key, or a table cannot have primary key, but a table have a maximum only one primary key you can define. Primary key is used to maintain entity integrity of a data. We know that entity integrity means attribute must be unique value within a table, and no part of a primary key contain null value, and the table in which primary key is defined is known as a either master table or parent table, and a table have a either no primary key or at most one primary key. Now, to define column level primary key, the general syntax is, after defining within the create table, after column name you can type data type and then just type primary space key. So, that column is defined as a primary key. Say for example, if I write here create table general ledger accounts, and first attribute is account number, data type is integer, size 10, and account number will be primary key of this table. So, here you write primary space key, comma means the definition of this column is complete. Then second column account description. So, SECDSC is a name of field, data type is varchar and size is 50 characters, and then the definition is complete. We have already created tables with that one, but just to give brief idea, let me create here table with table column level primary key. If you click on go button, so one table is created here, the table name general ledger accounts, and you can see here this is the primary, it will be considered account number as a primary key. To define primary key at table level, you can use, after defining all the column, comma you can write constraint, though it is optional, but it is good idea because you give constraint name. So, when you want to drop a particular constraint you can use it. So, write constraint, constraint name is also optional, but then primary key and into parenthesis column name is compulsory. If it is composite, then it can be more than one column. Say for example, here you can write create table accounts with attribute account number, account description. Now, you want to define primary key table level. So, after defining account description, here it is constraint, constraint name is pk for primary key underscore account number, primary key account number. So, this is the table level primary key definition. I just show you that you can code it. So, this if you look at the structure, this is our accounts 2 table, accounts 2 is here and here. So, you look there is a no difference between these two, but if you think then you should know that whenever composite primary key you have to use table level primary key definition. The reason is that in a table there can be maximum one primary key. So, once a column you define primary key, for second column you cannot define it. So, if it is a composite primary key, it is compulsory for you to define it as a table level, otherwise there is a no difference for column level or table level, because it maintain entity integrity. So, you cannot provide null value in primary key and value must be unique within that column. Foreign key. So, as we know that foreign key is used to create relationship between tables, and foreign key constraint requires that values in one table must be match values in another table, and foreign key constraint is used to enforce referential integrity. Referential integrity means, as I say, the value only from the parent table's value. It does not allow you to either insert, update or delete if you specify it. The database in relational database, because there are relationship is set between tables of the database, and relation between table is defined by using primary key and foreign key. A referential integrity ensure that value of foreign key must have matching primary key value in the related table, and foreign key is used to provide referential integrity, and table in which foreign key is defined is known as a child table or detail table, and a table can have 0 or 1, 2, 3 what many numbers of like foreign key you can define in a table. The foreign key column must have the same data type as the primary key column related to it. So, if you define a primary key table data type is integer, and when you want to another table define that column as a foreign key, so data type must be the same or either compatible character or varchar. Now, in referential integrity can be violated in any of these 4 cases. Say for example, you have created a table with primary key and that primary key is referred to another table as a foreign key. Now, if you want to delete records from primary key table, it will not allow you, because if you delete that record, what about the records which are referring in the foreign key table, because that will become orphan. So, if you not specify on delete statement, it will not allow you to delete it, because referential integrity is violated. In the similar way, if you want to update the value of primary key and this value is also refer in the foreign key table as a foreign key reference table. So, if you update that value, what about the values in the foreign key table? So, at that time it will be also violated. To insert a value which is not available in the primary key table and you define as a foreign key, so it will also not allow. So, at that time it is also violated. And update a row in the foreign key table, but the new value which does not have a matching primary key value. That means, you update value in foreign key table, but the new value you provide which is not matching with your primary key table, then also it is violated. So, that is why it will be maintain integrity. Now, when you define foreign key, there can be any value you can provide. Let me show you the syntax first. Foreign key you can also define column level or table level. To define foreign key column level, the syntax is after defining the table, you can write references, table name, and into parenthesis you can provide column name. Optional you can write on update and reference option or on delete and reference option. The reference option can be any of the one value, either restrict, cascade, set null or no action. Restrict means it rejects the delete or update operation for the parent table when referential integrity is violated. No action and restrict are the same, as no action behave the same as restrict. It is also the same as omitting on delete or on update close, but the null is different, that if you set null, then in the child table for the parent table primary key value is updated or deleted, it will be set the value as null. This is the example. You can write create table vendors 1, VID is a field name vendor ID, data type integer defined as a primary key, vendor name means V name varchar 50 and account number which is data type integer, and it refers to the accounts 2 table with account number column. So, here you create account number as a foreign key. So, it will be related with this accounts 2 table. Now, though you syntactically define column level table, keep in mind that it does not enforce referential integrity. To enforce referential integrity in MySQL, it is compulsory to define at table level, and your engine database engine must be InnoDB, because there are many engines available into it. And to define foreign key constraint at table level, the general syntax is constraint name, though they both are optional, but you should write it. Then you have to use foreign key, then into parenthesis column name, references table name and column name, and optional you can write on update either cascade or set null, or on update cascade or set null. This is one example. Create table vendor 2, and here I define account number integer. After that I define constraint name is fk for foreign key underscore account number, which is, then I write foreign space key which is foreign key account number, then references. So, it is reference to accounts 2 table and accounts 2 table account number column. So, this is your foreign key, you can define it. Let me show you, this is by example. Say for example, if I copy paste that, I think I have accounts 2 table already in my SQL database. Yes. So, accounts 2 is here. Now, I move to SQL and just type it here, or here I can write on update or on cascade delete as well also. And if you look at the structure of it, this one now, as well as relation view. So, you can say here it will give you option that which columns with on update which value you would like to set it, right. So, this is accounts 2 table, and we have created recently vendor 2, and in vendor 2 if you see the relation view. So, vendor ID and which account whatever you like you can apply it. So, this is about how you define foreign key. And then unique constraint. So, unique constraint allows only unique value of the column. It allows null value also. A table can have 0 or more columns have a unique constraint. The general example is you can create table, and here I define v name as a unique constraint. So, now name must be unique. Once you enter a name, next time the same name if you enter, this will not allow due to unique constraint. If you want to define as a table level, the syntax is very similar. Constraint, constraint name, this both are optional, unique, and provide the column name. Say for example, constraint, constraint name, and this one. Say for example, to demonstrate it, I just copy paste the code here. Vendors 4 table we are creating. So, look at vendors 4, and if you look at here, so there is a one index also created, because for Unix also index will be created by MySQL. If you look at relation view, so right now we do not define any relation onto it, and as I say, when you create any database, just to give idea, if it is localhost and if you click create database and then you create table into database, say for example, you can create tables. So, look at here, there is a collation also, and initially it will be asking which database engine you are using. This is by default InnoDB. InnoDB only supports foreign key and it is transaction safe. So, just keep in mind. Then next one is null constraint, and null not null constraint is a constraint which can be defined at column level only. Not null you cannot define on table level, but once you define not null, so in that column null value is not entered, and as we know that null is a special value. This is example, you can write create table vendor 5 vid integer primary key, and primary key is nothing but it is a combination of unique and not null, and v name is not null. So, now you cannot put it blank, you have to provide space. So, space is a value it is allowed, but you cannot write null or put it blank. So, this is all the operation till we have consider is all about on single table. Now, databases consist of many tables, and you retrieve data from more than one table. So, SQL provide join facility. So, a join is used to retrieve data from multiple tables, and join is used to combine columns from 2 or more tables into a single result set, and result set based on the join condition when you write query. Join can be classified in two types, one is known as an inner join, second one is outer join. Inner join includes only those rows in the result set which are satisfied the join condition. This all SQL is basically actually based on mathematical set theory concept. So, when you provide any condition, this is known as a theta join, and what types of your condition, based on that condition that particular records are selected and into result set it will be displayed. Now, there are two types of syntax for join, implicit and explicit. You can use any of them. Implicit is older one. Now, as the new dialects of SQL comes, so SQL standard are changes, like recent one is 2015 or 16. Earlier was SQL 92, then 99, etc. So, you can use any of the syntax, but the general syntax for join is select comma column list separated by comma from table name 1 comma table name 2 or whatsoever you like, separated by comma, where table name 1 dot column name, then you provide operator table name 2 dot column name, and optional you can write and again table name dot column name operator table name dot column name. Operator can be any relation operator like equal to, greater than or equal to, less than or equal to, and if operator is equal to, then this join is known as a equi-join. Tables are generally joined on the relationship between primary key in one table and foreign key in another table. but you can use join on tables based on a relationship not defined in the database. If relationship is not defined, then these are called as a ad hoc relation. Let us write one example for join. To do that, let me open my code where I create one database. I will just show you how can I use this one. So, I have created one database here, database name is AP. I just and into that I create various tables with primary key and foreign key, and then I insert values into it. Either I can copy paste it or I can use the MySQL import facility. I just click on import button. So, it will be asking me to choose a location of file. So, I choose file, go to the my desktop, and desktop as I have a code folder. Inside code folder I have created a file called database1. Click on open, and there are option character set. I choose UTF-8 and I use SQL. So, these all are optional, and I click on just go button. So, it will be created one database AP with all these 7 tables, general ledger, invoices, and in that I write insert into statement also. So, my tables have a values are inserted into it. You can check any of that table. Say for example, if this is my table general ledger accounts. So, there are general ledger accounts, then there are mainly I focus on vendors and invoices table. So, I provide some vendor value with attributes. If you look at the structure, so vendor table has a vendor ID, name, address, city, PIN, zip, etc. and invoices tables with structure include invoice ID primary key, vendor ID will be foreign key here. Look at here, this 3 foreign key I define, invoices FK vendors, and this is the field cardinality, etc. It will be shows. If you look at details, it will be show again some options. So, these are the table. Now, let me write a query, because I would like to display invoice ID and vendor name, because in vendor table I have a vendor ID 129, right, and in invoice table I have a invoices for vendor 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8, not 9. So, let me write query. I just write select, then I would like to display vendor name. So, I write V name, comma, invoice ID means IID. Now, invoice ID is in invoices table and vendor name is in that table. From vendors, comma, invoices. If I write only this one, then it will display all the records, because one table has a 8 records, second one has a 9 records. Say for example, let me just show you. So, it will display total 72 records, because it will be show first 30 records, but you can check there are total 72 records, because one table has a 8 record, another one has a 9. So, it will be actually make Cartesian product, vendor name 1 with all the invoices ID, vendor name 2 with the invoices ID. But when you make join, so first it will be make Cartesian product, and then you can provide where condition. What I write where, that vendors dot VID is equal to, in invoices table also we have VID. In invoices we define VID as a foreign key. So, now it will be display only 8 records, because invoice ID with vendor name is this. So, this is the join that we are applying into it, and it is a inner join, you can say. So, this is very simple example of join. In case if columns included in a join condition have the same name in both the tables, so that will be ambiguity. So, to remove that ambiguity, you can differentiate with table name dot column name. Let us say for example, I can write select now VID in both the table. So, if I write VID, then it will be create error, because MySQL it do not determine where VID it has to take. Vendors dot VID is equal to invoices dot VID. I just copy paste it to give the idea. So, it will be say column VID field is ambiguous. To remove that ambiguity, I just need to write. I know that VID column in both the table. So, from which table I would like to choose? Let me say I write vendors dot VID, and now if I run it, so there will be no problem. It will be show me invoice ID, vendor name, invoice ID and vendor ID as well. So, this is you can remove that ambiguity. You can give table aliases also. Right now, whenever I write any query, I have to write the whole table name. Instead, here I can simply write, or I have to write it here, v dot vid comma v dot v name comma I dot IID from vendors v comma invoices I, where v dot vid is equal to I dot vid. Okay, spelling mistake in invoices, so I have to type it again, VOICES. So, look at here, now it will be display all this record, and again column name can be in any format, but this is the join you can apply with that way. Once you use aliases, you have to use it throughout, and table alias is in alternative to table name, and it is typically for 1 or 2 character length, and it is used to make more easier to read. If a table alias is assigned, then it must be used throughout the query. You cannot use original table name once alias is used, that earlier I was make mistake. And an alias can be used for one table also. Say for example, I can use that table aliases for one table only. Say for example, this is I use for both the table, or I can use it for any one table. Say for example, here I use I number and all this value. I can apply column alias and table alias as well with also. Say for example, this is just SQL statement. I just code it. Here I define I due date minus payment total minus credit total as balance due from vendors V, invoices I, where V and order by also. So, if you run that query, it will display all this value also. So, what I say that once you define vendor table alias, you have to use it. You cannot then use the original table name. That means, if I write, and now if I write vendors dot vid is equal to I dot vid, so it may generate error, that unknown column. The reason is that once you define alias, you have to use it throughout your table. Of course, you can use for one table, you can give whole table name, and another one you can define alias. So, that will be valid. Like say for example, here I define vendors and invoice is I, then I can write vendors dot vid is I dot vid. So, that will be valid, right, but once you define alias, you have to use it throughout your query. An alias can be used for one table. Now, a join condition can be used to combine more than one condition. You can use any logical operator also. Say for example, if I apply a join with using AND condition, let me just give you idea by show the code. So, I again here write one more SQL statement, that select I number means invoice number, line item amount, line items from invoices, invoice line items I line, where invoice dot id is this and second condition is this. So, it will be show only those record where this id are matching and account number is this. So, I have only this one record. So, you can apply that type of condition with this one also. Now, there is a special type of join known as a self join. So, it is a join that joining a table to itself. When you code self join, you must use the table aliases and qualifying column name with table name dot column name to remove the ambiguity. Let us take for example, we have vendors table here, and in vendors table I would like to display all the vendors who leaves their vendor name and their vendor city should be in the same state. So, I can code it like select distinct to display only one record. I just show you the code. Select distinct v dot vname, v1 dot city, v1 dot state from vendors v1, vendors v2. So, here I make self join. So, vendor table is only one, but I will treat it as a vendor 1 v1 as a one table, v2 is a another table to joining with the both the table, and then we check vendor v1 dot city is v2 dot city and v1 dot state is v1 dot state, but name are different. So, this is the self joining and I use distinct keyword. So, now if I run that query, so it will display all this record. If I do not use distinct keyword, so the value can be repeated, like say for example, if I just remove here distinct from here. So, look at here, all these are many number of time are matching, because the city and state is same for the vendor name, but I want name must not be same. So, this is the use of self join, joining a table itself. Now, there is another syntax, this is known as the explicit syntax, and you can use either implicit or explicit syntax, and these all are just standard to write the query. The syntax for explicit syntax is select column list from table name, then you can use join, or you can write inner join, but inner is a optional, then table name on table name 1 dot column name operator table name 2 dot on column name, and again if you want to use multiple type, you can use join table name dot column name and so on. Let us take one example of explicit syntax. Say for example, I can code select I number and v name, I number for invoice number and v name for vendor name from vendors and join invoices. So, joining of vendors table and invoices table on which columns vendors vid and invoices vid by using equal to operator, and I can use order by I number. Of course, I can use here where condition also if I prefer, but this is a simple example that you can use this explicit syntax as well. Both are valid syntax, whether use implicit or explicit, it is just a matter of choice. You can also join more than 2 table also, but join is a binary operator. So, at least 2 table required, but if you have more than 2 table you would like to join, you can join it. Let me give one example for that one. Say for example, here I am matching 4 tables. I just show you. Like select v name, I number, I date, all these are attributes from 4 tables: vendors v, invoices I, invoice line items and general ledger account, and then I write where condition. The general rule is that if there are n tables, then there must be in where n minus 1 condition. So, there are 4 tables. So, there are 3 where condition at least, this first, second and third. The reason is that there is a primary key and foreign key relationship. So, 4 table. So, 1 table related with second, 1 and second, second and third, third and fourth, then only you can get that result, and that will show you that this all are records, because the 4 tables are joining here, and this is the beauty of SQL in MySQL. You can combine as many tables or joining table as you like. Now, there is another type of join which is known as a outer join. In inner join, only the matching records are displayed. Now, if you consider, would you like to write a query where one table all the record and second tables only matching tables will be displayed. That means, all the matching tables plus one tables all the records. So, at that time outer join can be useful, outer join can be left or right. So, based on that it is known as a left outer join or right outer join. Left outer join retrieves all the rows satisfied condition plus unmatched row from left hand side table, while right outer join retrieves all the rows with satisfied condition plus unmatched rows of the right hand side table. Unmatched rows values are null in the result set. The syntax is select column list from table name, then you can write left or right, optional outer and join means left or right join is compulsory with table name on condition 1, then again left right join on condition 2, etc. Let me just demonstrate that. Say for example, here I write select v name, I will show you here. Select v name, I number, I total from vendors, left join invoices on vendors.vid is invoices.vid. That means, it will be matching all the records where vid of both the table matching plus left hand side table is the first table name I have written vendors. So, vendors table has a I think 9 record and invoices has a 8. So, it will display total 9 records, you can count here 2, 4, 6, 8 and 9. Now, if I just change the table order, like first I write invoices and then vendors, invoices and then I make left join vendors. So, you can look at here, right, it will display this record, and if you apply right, then it will make right join means right hand side table. Say for example, if I make here the same query or another query, I can write from vendors and right join invoices. So, right hand side is now invoices table. So, it will display all the records of invoices table. So, this is the outer join. Outer join can be used to join more than 2 table also, and inner join and outer join can be combined in a single select statement. Let me demonstrate by example also. Say for example, if this is the query where first make inner join and then make outer join, like select I number I total from invoices I and join invoices line item li on this is through explicit syntax, it is up to inner join and then result set of this one is left joining with this table on that condition. So, that can also you can write the query using that one. And then another option is cross join. So, cross join is nothing but it is actually your Cartesian product, where each row from the first table is related with each row of the second table. I already written with from, but to give just simple idea, I can say if I write this select invoice number and vendor name and you write cross join. So, we know that it will be display 72 records, because each one will be repeated with this one, and if you apply where condition in it, then it will become your join. So, this is the cross join. The last one is union. So, we know that in set theory union operator is used to union element of a 2 set. So, in the similar way, the result set of one query you can union with result set of another query. So, it is used to combine 2 or more result set. For union, each result set must have the same number of columns, because then only union can perform, as well as the data type must be computable for each the column. In the first result set there are 3 columns and second must be 3, then only union will work. By default, union eliminate duplicates rows. So, to include duplicate rows you can use all keyword after union keyword. The final result set include column name for first select clause only, and column alias assigned by other select clause have no effect on the final result set. To sort the rows in the final result set, code an order by clause after the last select statement. The order by clause must refer to the column name specified in the first clause. The general syntax is select statement and then union, optionally or, another select statement, and you can use union any of them. Let us take example of that one. So, this is union. I can just write one example. First one is select active as source. So, I give column aliases, then there are total this 1, 2, 3 column with where condition, then I write column alias paid as source and again 3 column and this query. So, it will be display total 4 column paid or active, and I use union operator, and I can union as many results that I prefer. So, let us summarize today's module. I start with how you can define column alias, as keyword is used to give column alias, and if you want to provide space in column alias, you must write in quotes, either single quote or double quotes. Then we move how you can use distinct keyword, how to update and delete records. Then we learn about join, how you can joining more than 1, 2 or more tables, and this is inner join, and depending on condition it will give you result. And in join you can also use table alias and column alias simultaneously. Then we learn about outer join, this can be left outer join or right outer join. You can use cross join also, and union is used to combine or union the result set of one query to another query. This is all about this session. In next session, I would like to start with aggregate functions and subquery. I hope you are enjoying this session. These all are the references I have used, and thank you for viewing this video.